Hello, hello, hello. What is good, everybody? BLOOBUM, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, man. Yeah. How's it going?
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Thursday night Discourse Syndicate live technical analysis with me. My name is Jenkins, and tonight I decided it was only right to bring one of the most special minds in the HEX community on to the stream because not only do I want to break down the charts and give you guys all the analysis of everything that's going on, I want to have a good conversation about HEX and Pulse because we know Pulse is right around the corner. Who better to have that with than BLOOBUM himself? So welcome aboard, BLOOBUM, and thank you for being on tonight, my man. How you doing?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm good. Really thoroughly been enjoying your calls and all your TA, and feel honoured to be asked on. Thank you very much. And yeah, hopefully I'll be able to sort of like read out what people are asking in the chat as you're kind of doing all your algorithms and dojis and twisted fan rainbows and all that kind of stuff.
All that fun stuff. Yeah, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, look what I'm wearing tonight. I got the pink HEX shirt tonight. So it's a special night when Jenkins busts out the pink HEX shirts. We only bust these out on special nights. So in honor of you tonight, BLOOBUM, we're rocking pink HEX.
Oh, thanks, man. I've got to get onto the whole swag thing. I haven't really done too well in that. I've kind of been. I'm living out of a backpack at the moment, and so it's like having to get some stuff sent somewhere. But I should get onto it. It's like it's a perfect time to advertise a bit of HEX around these different like small towns that I've been inhabiting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And too, it's like, well, the thing behind the shirt is my wife and I bought his and her shirts for HEX. This one was just not the right fit or style for her, so we went and got like a refund. They told us to keep the old one. I'm like, you know what? I'll keep it and bust it out on stream. Why not? Pink HEX.
Nice.
Who has pink HEX? So, but it's all good. So, yeah, how you feeling overall? I mean, I had one of my first ever streams was actually with you on your channel, and I appreciate that. It was a very good stream, good conversation. We learned a lot from you on that, especially me. But how you feeling since? It's been a couple months since we talked. I know Pulse wasn't even announced. I mean, it was talked about, but there's no sacrifice phase, no realistic, expectation of when Pulse is coming out.
Wow.
So how's life for you right now? Now with the whole HEX and Pulse combination coming to light.
Oh, it's amazing. It's been such a ride being on this machine, like the HEX and then Pulse ride, magic carpet ride. It totally is. It's like every few days there's some other controversy or some other kind of thing that gets you, right into the community. And seeing the community grow as well has been amazing. Seeing the price grow has been pretty nice as well. And it really does feel like HEX just does this thing where it's like it goes up and then it goes sideways for a while, and then it goes up and then it goes sideways for a while. And we've just been in this like. And this is like, I don't know how many times it's felt like this, but it just feels like it's exactly the same thing. We're just watching it go sideways for a bit and then just waiting for the pressure to build up. It pumps, you know what I mean? And like, there's so many things to be bullish about in HEX at the moment. You get double on the fork. You're like, there's going to be a whole new network where it's going to be cheaper to do stuff. There's like, Richard Hart's got, he's applying for a license, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Have an exchange. There's like encapsulated stakes coming. There's just so much, you know what I mean? And so it's super exciting, and it's still early for anybody who's here. And I know a lot of people have been kind of like, especially if you're coming in right now and you've seen it go up so much in the last year and a half, but it is still so early. And yours is a great program to watch, to catch those dips, you know what I mean? And if you are new, I think DCAing in is a great option. You have to have a bit of self-control when you do it. I wasn't very good at it. Like when I first came to HEX, it had already been going for 6 months, and I thought, right, I'm going to DCA in until the big payday, and it's very, very quickly started throwing them. Your psychology takes over, but if you can have that discipline, I think you'll lower your risk. But anyway, regardless with HEX, it doesn't feel like it's too much risk. Even if you buy high, it's just a matter of waiting a few months, hey?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, it's literally all it is. And it feels like no more than maybe 3 to 5 weeks you'll be trapped in a pullback. And there's no such thing as trapped if you get those T-shares, if you staked it. But But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but before we dive into the charts and I get on with the technical analysis for everybody, I have to ask you, sacrifice phase is come and gone. Like, what was your play? How did you attack it, at least in the sacrifice phase?
I was very lucky. I got invited into a pool with a lot of money going into it, and so it was it was someone who I trust a lot. So it was very easy for me just to go in with those guys, and so then we just basically we mainly DCA'd in over the first 5 days, and then we still had some left over, but then we realized that, oh no, it just looks like this is what's gonna happen. And so I think we finished up within the first 8 days kind of thing. And
Okay.
because I really put in with those guys, I'll get a great benefit out of that. So I'm really happy with that. And but I think everyone's going to do really well out of it, to be perfectly honest. Like it's this is the cheapest you'll be able to get it, I think. I can see it, like pumping and then taking a big dip, but I still think that dip will be enough that everyone who put in during the sacrifice phase, no matter where you put in during the sacrifice phase, will be fine. I think, those big pulls will do a little bit better, obviously, but not much more than a percentage more better. You know what I mean? Like whether that's 100% better or 50% better or 20% better. Still, I think it's like in the grand scheme of things, like the small people will be fine in the long run.
Yeah. If you guys are here, you guys are good. Don't worry. If it's $1 or $100,000, you guys are a-okay. So no worries. But so let's dive into these charts. So again, thank you for being here, BLOOBUM. So I'm gonna dive into these charts, and you guys know when I get to the charts, I get locked in. I'm so far to the comments. So I do want to be more interactive and available with people because I know I always get so far behind with things. So
so I'm gonna be looking directly at the comments while you do all that kind of stuff. And if anyone's got a question that needs in time answering, just let me know, and I'll make sure that Jenkins, that I'll be your voice. I'll be the chat's voice.
My man, I appreciate that. All right, so let's go ahead and show you guys a chart. So for those of you that know me, I mean, I'm Jenkins. I do the HEX chart analysis for you guys live on streams. I do every Thursday on Discourse Syndicate. Let me make this bigger for us. Can we do that? Okay, cool. I do live streams every Thursday on Discourse Syndicate. But I have my own YouTube channel, and I don't post too much on there. I do all my big stuff is on Discourse Syndicate because the platform's bigger and I can reach out to more people to add the value there. But if you guys go to my YouTube page, I actually made a couple recent videos. I have 2 in the past month and a half. A month and a half ago is when I told you guys, like, we were forming this big triangle that was back here. And don't mind these drawings. I'll explain all of that. But basically, we're in this stage, and I told you guys this triangle is going to build, and my goal was 15 cents, and we, smashed 15 cents about 4 days later. I did make.
Can I just ask, what chart do you use?
Yeah, I use the HEX USDC. I believe this is on the Uniswap liquidity pair too. And I use it.
Hourly, or what?
What was that?
What hourly chart? Like what do you normally look at?
All the time. I do it all. So I weekly, daily, and 4 hour. When I'm trying to do live analysis for people in the chat and stuff, I like 4 hours just so I can show you guys what to expect. Maybe the next few hours, next few days. I usually go weekly, so I like to get those intervals. But when I'm really just doing things, I look at the daily. I look at the weekly. Sometimes the monthly. There's actually something cool on the monthly and weekly I want to point out. So what I'll do, I'll start high and then work my way low. But just a couple things to point out. Actually, no, I won't do that because I want to just go over what just happened in HEX and then kind of where we're at now. But yeah, I made that last video calling out 15 cents because of, that triangle we were forming. Sacrifice phase then came. We had the 15 cent blown. We hit 20 cents in some exchanges. So I just made another video yesterday or 2 days ago with my next, price projection. So I want to share that with you guys that are on stream now. That maybe did not see that. So real quick, I'm going to point out some things that happened in the past, and I'm going to compare it to like what's happening now. So this red line you have here, this was our initial bull flag that turned into a triangle pattern that caused the breakout, right? So a bull flag, the flag pole, and then you got the flag right there, right? I like to see, 3 to 5 wave patterns when we do create bull flags, and especially if we see a triangle pattern form after that. So as you can see, we had the ultimate high that was right here, and then every time we broke up, we never broke this high. The highs got lower, right? That's a crooked line. But basically we had that and kind of like a triangle pattern. Inside of that, usually when triangle patterns happen, that means, price is really building tension. It can't really break up. It can't really break down. It can't really break up. It can't really break down. Then it just goes sideways so long to the point where one of the two sides has to explode. All that tension just explodes. So when this happened, we had, the initial wave was wave 1. We had the wave 2 on the bull flag. Wave 3 did not break the all-time high. Wave 4 did not break the low. And then wave 5 kind of moved us sideways. After we had our 5-wave move, we kind of pulled back and then took our launch, right? Once we did that, we created the exact same pattern 2 times, and it was like picture perfect, right? So we had this big bull flag with the impulse, finally broke out of the triangle. We came back down, formed a bull flag. Remember the flag and the flagpole? Wave 1, wave 2, and wave, 3, wave 4. We had a wave 5, and you see price pulled back inside of this triangle. And then once it pulled back after that 5th wave, we shot way up, with the sacrifice phase, okay? So what's happening right here, right now, we are creating the exact same pattern for a 3rd straight time, ladies and gentlemen. I want to show you guys exactly why. It's not picture perfect, but it is. I mean, HEX draws the most beautiful patterns ever for typical technical analysis guys, right? So what do we have? We broke out of that triangle, massive impulse, massive bull flag. I mean, this is a huge bull flag, right? So, but do you think wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, right here, we did not break the high right there. Wave 4 pulled back, did not break the low. Right now, what are we doing? We're doing like a 5th wave again. So if history repeats itself, we can expect the same thing. After the 5th wave, maybe the stars might be aligning. I'm not calling no shots with no time frames, but if history literally repeats itself for a 3rd straight time, I would not be shocked to see the price where it's at, tap this little mini triangle kind of a trend line short term. Keep in mind, this is the 4-hour chart. Pull back. Once we officially flip this gray range, once we officially flip this gray range into a support line once and for all, that might align perfectly with, that little pullback after the 5 waves inside of a triangle. And then what's next? That next big move up. If you guys watched my video, I told you guys 25 cents was the next move. I already have my next major target lined out here. And for the people that might be watching me for the first time, every box and circle and square, these are all previous targets that we had when I did my technical analysis. I don't delete those, right? So this is just one of the many. So eventually we will get here, and then, who knows, weeks, months, days later, we'll be, looking down. It's like, oh, this yellow box is going to be the new support line I want to see us pull back to, So it's just another part of the process. But I think that's very simple to see for anybody. So if we're just looking at simple patterns, we're looking very, very, very good. When I was making my video 2 days ago, we were actually in this range. We were around right here. So we kind of pulled back, started to pump a little bit and slow down around the 13.1 cent range. So I told everybody I want to just break 13.6 pennies right here, kind of make a smaller high inside this triangle, which we're doing now. So 2 things can happen, or a few things, obviously. But we can just keep going up, and I mean, whatever, that'd be great. But to kind of confirm that this pattern is exactly what we want it to be, or at least me, I would love to see this pull back real quick, maybe come tap 13.5, 13.6. If we can finally hold that line once and for all, that's going to be the area that we take off at. Another thing to keep in mind with that, with these triangles that we had, or this previous triangle, this massive explosion that came off this second triangle, that aligned perfectly with the sacrifice phase news, right? Well, this triangle, who knows? No one has a crystal ball, especially me. Only Richard Hart probably knows this, but who knows? If this, price kind of stays in this area, we're at 14.3 cents, which is actually very good. I mean, we were at 13 earlier today. If we stay in this area, kind of pull back the next day or two, and Richard Hart decides to just make the next major pulse chain announcement, which might be the test net or whatever, I mean, the stars might align again. So sacrifice phase was the reason for this pump out of the triangle. Pulse chain test net announcement might be the, the announcement that causes us to break out of this triangle. If you really think about it that way, it almost makes too much sense as to why it could happen like that. real quick too, I want to point out one thing. So for the people that have been watching me forever, I've been calling out, once we came down here, had this massive pullback in the wick, and we were kind of floating in this range, about 3 weeks ago in July. I told everybody, holding this 13.6 line would be good, but I wanted to see a pullback to this 10 to 10.8 penny range. We finally got that. You guys saw my Twitter. That made me so happy, because initially we had this wick down here that, like, you literally can't get any closer to that line, to this box that this wick actually did. So I was kind of like, man, I wish it would have touched perfectly, but I was like, okay, whatever. If that's how low we're going, great. But eventually, we had this massive institutional candle down, and it goes literally to the range. All I needed to see was just some sort of touch in this range to get me back bullish. I mean, I've been bullish overall, but very short term. I was done expecting pullbacks lower than that range once I got that actual touch. And for the people that didn't watch me, the reason why I had that, range kind of pointed out was this massive doji candle play. I know BLOOBUM, talked about those dojis already. You guys know I love those dojis. Those show us where price is always at. You have the big push up, small push back, massive impulse up. That usually is a sign of price changing direction. That's what we had, but that also means there's a lot of bids sitting there still. And obviously, when we had this wick from the massive sell down, it wicked in that same exact area. So those were the two confirmations that I needed to kind of make that range. Like, okay, let's fully touch that before we go up. And it's pretty weird to think, like, because I was a Forex trader. That's how I started doing chart analysis and everything. So my best way of trading to make them, and I don't trade anymore, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I don't recommend trading. I stopped trading thanks to HEX, thanks to Richard Hart. I mean, and I've been so much more profitable. I was a good trader, but I'm a million times more profitable just by buying and holding things like HEX. Okay. But when you do trade, you don't want to just trade normal trends and normal patterns, because that's how, the big fish or institutions kind of flush you out. They liquidate you. Right. So I always look for what is a certain zone, a big fish is waiting for in the market that we want to see price touch to kind of, that'll be a zone that is far enough down to flush out all the people that are long on this, but also not far enough down that'll break structure. So when I see things like this, you see all these bottoms that are in the same area. There's a ton of liquidity sitting in this range if you're a trader, right? There's a lot of money sitting there. So once the price finally broke up, everyone's like, oh, yes, it's almost like it's kind of like a bear trap almost, or yeah, it's almost like a bear trap, like a bull or bear trap, where they trick you to think that price is going up. So everyone's like, yes, it is. And then, man, that one massive liquidation candle for traders really kills people. And it's so obvious when you see stuff like this. You see all these small candles work its way nice and slow, and all it takes is two candles to rip price down and then one candle to bring it back to normal, kind of like a homeostasis. That's clear manipulation by people that actually move the markets, So that's why I look for this range. And as time kind of showed up, that's exactly where, this institutional candle took us right to. So that's why I point out these ranges once we're going through the motions, looking at the charts and everything. And, I tell people, I don't know exactly where price is going ever, but if I am a smart money or a big institutional guy, these are ranges that I'm looking for. So that's what I'm thinking, like short term. So short term, next, hopefully few hours, couple days. I say so last time I made that triangle pattern video in the 15-cent range, it took 4 or 5 days for the price to actually follow and hit that target. So say it takes 4 to 5 days again. That was 2 days ago, maybe 2 to 3 days. Like I said, I'm not making that prediction, but if things just go perfectly, that'd be great. But the first thing we want to look out for is once price decides to pull back. Once we get to 13.6, we want to hold. Or I would go all the way from 13 to 13.6 pennies. Once we're in that area, that's where the truth will officially be told, and that'll show if price wants to move or not, because we already got our institutional liquidation, zone tagged. The pattern's finally playing out. We pulled back for about 3-4 weeks now. I mean, the stars are officially aligning for that next move up. So that is that. Okay. And BLOOBUM, stop me if you need me to, but I'm going to keep going. If I don't get stopped.
Fantastic. It's all fantastic and really, really clear. And there's not too many questions. But or if they are questions, they're questions that are kind of to this, not really sort of related directly to what you're saying. So we can
perfect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just stop. Just stop me dead in my tracks if you need something. But I'm gonna rip through. I'm gonna go through the. I'm gonna show a couple things in the weekly chart, a couple little things in the monthly chart, show some things in the daily chart. I'm gonna show. I'm not a big indicator guy, but when I did trade, the indicators that helped me be successful, I'll show you guys those in the HEX chart. They just so happen to work too. So, one thing I want to note out now that I showed you guys those patterns, let me do this. Let me zoom in. Let me take out this triangle. 13.6 blue line. Get rid of that. So if we're just looking at a simple chart, not trying to draw any technicals or anything, just kind of see, you know, what is price showing us that HEX wants to do. Like you mentioned earlier, once we have that impulse, we usually pull back for a long period of time. That's usually like, you know, 3, maybe 4 weeks. So if we go back to that first triangle pattern, and keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, every candle is a weekly candle, okay? So 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We made this high right here with this wick. It took 1, 2, 3. So, I mean, 3.5 counting the week that this happened. So 1, 2, 3 candles before this all-time high was broken. So we made the all-time high, kind of chill for, you know, 3 to 4 weeks. We finally broke it. Second triangle pattern. We made this all-time high 1, 2, 3, 3.5, 4 weeks. Who knows? Somewhere in here is where we broke it. So impulse, 3 to 4 week correction. Impulse, 3 to 4 week correction. What's going on now? Impulse, 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th week of a correction, okay? So this candle is the 4th week. If it's going to be perfect, that means this can if this wants to perfectly align with the last 2 triangles we had, that means this candle is going to land at over 20 cents in 2 to 3 days. I mean, what we just talked about, 2 to 3 days, if things do happen perfectly, I mean, that could line up. I wouldn't bank on that though. I would bank on maybe next week's candle. If we get that 13.6 support line that we are looking for inside this triangle, 3 days it could happen, but maybe by the end of next week. So that gives us a window of 3 to 10 days, basically. If the stars do align and the pattern plays out the way we just drew it and just literally recreates history, we can expect that next candle to at least break the all-time high around 20 cents. But if we're moving, we're moving. And if we're moving, I'm pretty sure it's because the pulse chain test net's probably dropped and we're about to, you know, get that main net talk, you know, or the snapshot or the actual fork where people get free HEX. People are going to just buy that buy one, get one HEX, you know?
It's just amazing. It's just amazing how, like clockwork, it's gone, isn't it? It's like 3 or 4 weeks sideways, move up. 3 or 4 weeks sideways, move up. 3 or 4 weeks sideways, move. Just like, and you kind of like wonder how much of it is just these behavioral playing out, you know, and how much of it is like to do with any of the actual information in the marketplace.
Yeah, no, I agree. If I actually look back even further, so we had these 3 straight patterns doing the same thing. I can go all the way back. We had a 4th time that this actually happened. Right when we finally broke past 2 pennies, we made the all-time high 1, 2, 3 weeks, and in the 4th week we broke through. So if this happens again right here, right now, this will be 4 straight times that this pattern is played out. I mean, it is picture perfect technical analysis. This makes technical analysis fun because it's like when I do stuff like this, you want to see those perfect patterns. HEX does that in the most bullish way imaginable. It's almost like it defies the law of physics of how charts should actually work. Okay, so on the daily, did you have to say anything, BLOOBUM?
No, that was the weekly, was it?
That was the weekly. Yep. Yeah. So that was the weekly. If I go to the daily, I mean, these triangle patterns, you know, look a lot more beautiful than that 4 hour. So I'm just show you guys bull flag, right? Triangle pattern, bull flag, triangle pattern's perfect, bull flag, triangle. It's not perfect. It's actually like a real flag, you know, if you think about it. But this part right here, what we're doing right now, we're creating this sort of triangle in this range right here. And that big institutional candle is like the heart and soul of it. So we got a triangle inside of a triangle. Another thing too, real quick, I want to point out in the weekly chart. Look at these. So HEX tried every seller, every potential whale that has been in the market in HEX has tried to sell the price down. And look at these wicks. When you see a wick this big, this consistent, that resembles exhaustion, right? So a wick means price went all the way down here and then bought back up. So 1 week, I mean, we can even go here, this top wick. This first week, we hit, you know, day 2 of sacrifice. No, day 1 of sacrifice, I think. We hit 20 cents. and we wicked all the way down. So I mean, sellers really took control at the very end of that week. The next week, sellers sold the price all the way down to 6 cents, but look, it got bought back up so fast. Okay, great. Next week, sellers try to push the price down. Look at the size of this wick. This wick goes all the way from 10.9 pennies up to 12 cents. Sellers could not drain the price. Look at the week. This is one, two, three. This is about 3.5 weeks after. Look at this wick from the bottom side. Sellers really tried to exhaust the price. Right here, right now, the beginning of this week, price was going down again. We got all the way down to about 11.3 pennies. And this candle's not done yet. We got almost 3 days left. But look at the price. If this candle finishes not only with the wick here, but this big white chunk of candle we have, if it finishes as a positive candle, that might be the end of things. This is like a little teacup that people call them, you got this little, you got the cup and the little handle, that's a really bullish sign. So if this finishes off as a strong wick and we finish positive, it's like it would make too much sense for that next candle to at least on a very bad week break the all-time highs. So if you look at the weekly chart, that's probably the most true chart where it shows the bulk of the price. It's looking very good. It's looking like sellers are getting exhausted. Everybody that wanted to sell and take those profits, they didn't kill the price. That price got bought back up so quickly. And like I said, if people try to sell again, which nobody's going to want to sell during the, test net phase right before the actual fork, because who's going to want to sell HEX right before they get double the HEX, plus all the people that want to FOMO buy it, not FOMO, but just really get that buy one, get one deal. I mean, on the long grand scheme of things, I think it's probably safe to say that we're done, on this long, dreadful pullback. Sacrifice phase was fun for the first 36 hours, and it's a long, dreadful pullback. Draining out the people that wanted to trade it and do the DCAing. And then now we just have this 3 to 4 week pattern. I think it's time that with the energy is starting to recreate, that momentum starting to recreate itself in HEX. And these are on the biggest charts that tell us the most. And something here too. I mean, even if the triangle that I just drew out here, right? We can see something on the day, and that was on the 4-hour chart, but on the daily chart, if I take this trend line down, right, off the top of the triangle, what we can expect to see that would align the 4-hour with the daily chart is a break of this trend line and a retest of the trend line. If this just so happens to be right here, this candle closes out, in the next 24 hours up here, and then 24 hours later, we get a touch back down here. We flip this top trend line into an actual support line. That's going to be another confirmation that price is going to go up. So literally a break, a retest of the trend line, it'll impulse up. Where does that retest land? Literally in this exact same range. So, I mean, it's looking picture perfect, no crystal ball. But, I mean, if there's any signs that prices finally start ready to moving up, this might be the time. Keep in mind, though, there is a level of resistance right here. So you see when, price topped off, we had a wick price, all got cluttered right down here at the bottom and couldn't break. It was a support line. We finally broke it and then came up, retested it as a resistance line, and then finally stayed under it. Well, look what price happened inside that triangle. It came down, broke up. It could not break this line here. So what would I expect to happen? If things are going to happen the exact way we talked about it, I want to see price tap this one more time. And this will kind of confirm the pullback, right? I want to see price.
What price is that level?
This is 14.7. So give or take, let's say 14.6 to 14.8 roughly. It can go all the way to 15 cents. I mean, we have the wicks up at 15 cents, but let's go like 14.7 to 15 cent range ish. It would kind of confirm, let's get a little more resistance, not resistance that's strong enough to make a massive push down like this, because like I said, we had the confirmation of the 10.8 range already touched, but let's get a little respect right here. Come down, flip this into a support line, and then once we break this line, oh yeah. So if we can, right now is the time. It's not good to look at charts 24/7, but if you want to pay attention to a HEX chart, now is the time. Today, tomorrow, the next 2 to 3 days is going to tell exactly what the story is going to be. It's going to tell if we're ready to move up. It's going to tell if we're not ready to move up. But if I'm literally putting my money on it, which I'm going to do, I mean, not financial advice, ladies and gentlemen, but I do have some dry powder, ready and available. That's not in HEX yet, but I'm waiting literally for this pullback right here. If I miss out, whatever, because I already own HEX. But if I do get this pullback, me personally, I am going to execute a buy right here one final time before, the actual fork. But the stars are really aligning. So we look at a bunch of different things, and it's looking very, very good. So, and then I showed the 4 hour. It's really not necessary to go to 1 hour or anything. I mean, there's enough people out there that do TA on short term stuff. I'll leave it to them.
You're gonna do the weekly, or the monthly? You were going to have a look at?
Yeah, let's take a look at the monthly real quick, and let me delete all these lines. Look at that. This is a wall that's being built. That's not even fair on the monthly chart. So one thing I wanted to point out a few days ago that was looking real cool, but it's tough. Keep in mind, there's 18 days left on this monthly chart. Okay. Oh, whoops, hang on. I clicked out of it. There's 18 days left on this monthly chart. So what's happening now is going to be totally different in 18 days. That's what, 2.5 weeks, But one thing I wanted to point out that was looking really nice 2 days ago is this. So BLOOBUM, you're talking that doji. I love the dojis, okay? Back in March, April, and May. I'm zooming super far in just so you guys can see us clearly. I know it's kind of ugly, but what happened? So in March, we exploded. April, we had a doji candle. Doji meaning there's price exhaustion going up and down. We finished a little small, so it kind of tricked people into selling. And then what follows it? A massive impulse, right? So this doji candle is literally we're gonna look at this doji for the rest of our lives and be like, wow, that is the one thing that really, in terms of technical analysis, that is the one thing that really sent HEX to that next level. And I talk dojis all the time on the weekly, the 4 hour, and the daily. But what was happening 2 days ago when we were back around 12.5 cents, that exact pattern we had, price was literally in this range right here. So what I was thinking is, if price does not decide to take off in the next 3 to 5 days, and it wants to chill here for another few weeks, which I don't think is going to happen. If it wanted to, that would be an even more bullish signal, because we would recreate that doji that happened 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 months ago that happened. If we get another doji play out like that by the end of August, I mean, price will not only smash 26 cents or 25 cents in September, it might go beyond that, because that's going to be way too much tension pulling back. So, I did want to point that out 2 days ago, but I just want to tell you guys that, like, if price does not break out in the next few days, don't worry, because I know we don't want to be patient and wait weeks. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's just so much. It's just so much buy pressure.
Too much, right?
Well, not too much. Is like it. I mean, it makes sense, because we had the initial launch of the coin, which was a year where 500, million coins were coming online every day, coming onto the market every day, and then we bottomed out after the big payday at 0.0002 or whatever. But ever since then, it's just been this increasing, that we can just see the buy pressure. And it's just been solid, you know what I mean? Like, and even though you have those movements within the weeklies, the monthly, ever since the coin hasn't been minting new coins every day, has just been on the climb, and it's still so early. Like, all of these coins getting locked up into the future is just diminishing all of that supply over time. And so it's just this kind of ratchet that is just, it's when you look at the chart, it has been going up so
up and to the right.
So consistently, and even when you're talking about your 4 hours and stuff like that, you can just see that buy pressure. There's always just upward pressure on the chart. You know what I mean? It's people want to buy it. People want to buy it.
Yeah, and, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's just it, and it makes it really clear on that monthly. It was just amazing. It's just like bang, 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 bang. The most that a sell could get in a month was that doji, which was just pretty much a neutral.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And two, so everything we just looked at is literally, we did not use one single indicator. We didn't use one fancy tool. We just looked at the naked price. We looked at the chart and just determined, where is price sitting? Where is big money sitting? And we saw all those things align up. We already have enough confirmations to kind of get our bias on where the price is going. Let me just show a couple indicators now that even, I mean, this is more confirmation. So what I have is just it's a little bit of a complex MACD. It just kind of just determines like volume levels of like how much sell pressure and buy pressure. I have RSI.
I was thinking about volume before, because when you were saying how when it's being bought up, it's showing like interest in the project, and I was thinking, well, actually, the volume is really important, isn't it? Because if there's really, really low volume, it's just not very convincing. It's more disinterest in the market. Whereas as you get higher and higher volumes, that's when you get that tension, and where that price might, like for the price to break out, the volume has to be there, huh? Well, it doesn't have to, but
but having it all but guarantees, no one can predict the future, but you really have a good idea what might happen next when you see the volume back up the actual patterns, and that's key that you bring that up, because one of these volume charts, the MACD, as you guys can see, I want to just point out a couple things. So let me zoom this in. This is like a big, I call these mountains, these green mountains, right? So this is looking at the daily chart. The first, I told you guys about the 3 bull flag, or the 3 triangle patterns we've been creating, and the third one we're in now. The first one, we created the first mountain, right? So once the light green, line showed, that means price is pushing up. It's healthy. There's more buy pressure than sell pressure. Once the lines turn dark green, it means like, it's still good, but pressure started to slow down, and it comes down and taps the line. Where did the top of the green happen? At the very top of this, impulse. And then it turned dark green, slowed down. We came back, touched our range. I'll explain this I'm not going to explain it, but you see purple lines. Once the lines are purple, means like, okay, it kind of chills. But once they turn blue, that means momentum shifts. That's all anybody needs to know. But then, we had that massive impulse. The mountain came down, touched the purple line that turns blue, showing that momentum shifts. And here we are. Momentum shifted, made the next triangle pattern all-time high. The mountain topped off right there, slowed down, came back down. We went actually under the line, switched it blue, momentum shifted around. We created a small red mountain, actually. Hang on, sorry, let me make this more clear. We created a small red mountain, and then, once the red mountain came back and it turned green again, that was part of this impulse. So basically the mountains are created every time the impulses happen. Why do I say that? Well, look at this red mountain right now. We created the biggest red mountain we've ever seen, right? And that was a huge pullback on the biggest bull flag we've ever had. The price is just at levels we've never been at before, not even close. Unimaginable levels almost, it seems like. Not unimaginable, but it's just pretty cool. But the red mountain peaked off. Where did it peak off at? It peaked off right in this area look how many wicks we almost have to my range, by the way. Man, I wanted that touched, so many times, but price came down, kind of bottom off there. Now all that's happening is this red mountain's finally slowly starting to come back. What's going to happen is going to turn back green very soon. For it to turn green, it might take a few days, 2 to 5 days. Well, what is that 2 to 5? Well, we talked about 2 to 5 days on so many other patterns. Who knows? That's what I'm saying. The next 48 to 72 hours are going to be key to look at. But on the grand scheme of things, if everything lines up the way it has been lining up, we just might be in the midst of creating the next 4th big mountain. If that happens, I mean, that's going to basically put us where, our next target's at 25 cents. So the stars are aligning, and it can't be any more clear than this. There's no crystal ball. We do not know we cannot predict the future. But this is just one of the many confirmations that we needed. You look at an indicator, that's one. This one, most people are probably familiar with, an RSI, just a relative strength index, just tells the strength of the market. If you just check past history, first, I put a blue line here, right at 50%, basically where the median is, right? So when this chart goes, let me make this one bigger actually. When this chart goes above this top purple box, that means it's kind of overbought. At least when you're trading, price is overbought. That usually means a pullback is going to happen. Okay, so where was this price overbought at? Well, in the exact same range where we had this first top, right? So it came back down, and then where did we touch? We bounced right off this 50% mark. Where's that 50% mark? At the very bottom. What happens? Impulse in the actual price, impulse in the RSI chart. We go over we kind of get overbought, so we top off here. Price drops back down to 50%. Where's that 50%? At the bottom of this bull flag, right? It's too picture perfect. Then, goes again. Price pumps up. We go above this actual dotted line that I have here. We're overbought. Price is kind of sold down. We touch 50%. We're still at 50% though. So it's kind of, if we're looking at history, it just keeps happening and happening. History always repeats itself, in many ways, shapes, and form. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, HEX is doing this and pumping in the midst of a bear market. The rest of the market's still down 30 to 60%, depending on what coin, 20 to 50%, depending on what coin you're talking about. So just imagine if this is happening in the bear market, these patterns are still playing out perfectly the way that, they look so clear on here. what's going to happen when the bull market comes back around? So HEX is doing this perfect performance while everything's going down. All that's going to happen is this is going to top off and the bull market's going to come around. And then it's like, oh, well, HEX might as well go back up with everything else. So, I mean, the odds are stacked against it. But yeah, not to get off track, but basically, yeah, we're at the 50% on the RSI. What's happened the last 3 times, you know? I mean, it's happened before in the past, but I'm on a different chart, the non-long chart or whatever. So I'm not going to go back to all those minimized candles. But yeah, we're at the 50% line, and history shows us 1, 2, 3 times in the past over the span of, you know, 4 months, maybe 3-4 months, that it's just doing the same thing over and over and over again. So those are 2 indicators that line up with every single pattern, you know, that we put out there. So, yeah, I mean, I can go all night showing you guys different indicators, different things, and everything's going to keep aligning for the sake of, I mean, I guess time. I'm not going to just go and do all
of that. You've shown it beautifully. It's just, I think, just looking at those different hourly charts, like the 4 hourly and then the daily and then the weekly and the monthly, like looking at all of those just shows such a clear picture of what has been happening with the price. And if you judge by history what will happen in the future, you know, or if that's or it rhymes, then you know, it's looking obviously pretty good, and people are pretty happy about it. Sounds like the price is pumped. Sounds like the price is about to hit that 4 point. Did you say 4.86 to 4.8 before? And it's already up to 14. Sorry, 14.5.
Yeah. So yeah, another thing too with that, I would think it was like 14.7 ish roughly in that range. You know, like when we're getting to decimals of a penny, I mean, you can't be. I'm trying to be that specific for everybody, just because that's how like. Yeah, but I mean, it's a good thing. But yeah.
How about we move out, and like we go to kind of like more speculation. So we have this situation where it's probably going to be at least a month and a half away, where the chains fork. So that's a month and a half, who knows what. The chains fork, everyone gets duplicated, Pulse comes onto the scene. What happens to the HEX price straight after the fork?
What happens to the HEX price? That's tough. That's tough to say. I mean, I don't think it dumps. I don't think it dumps right off the bat, because I mean, man, that is so tough. I would say, so here's how if I had to, and this could be way wrong, because I'm gonna literally like try to envision the future right here. Say everything we look at the charts happens perfectly. We hit 25 cents or whatever, 20 to 25 cents by the time, and the rate when, you know, Pulse Chain comes out, you get HEX and PHEX. We might hit that natural resistance line and see a natural pullback at the same time. But I think what people might think is like, oh, it's dumping because we have the fork. But you look at the chart and it's probably just dumping because that's a natural resistance line. It just so happens that the fundamentals kind of line up perfectly. I don't see a dump though, because
the thing is, if it's a month and a half away, and every month we seem to pretty much just go up, like go up and then move sideways for 3 or 4 weeks. We've still got a month and a half. That could be like this move that's about to happen and another one. And then maybe and so, yeah, coinciding the natural cyclic pullback for where the price is, and how that interplays with the fork date and the news of that date. It's interesting, hey? And what do you think? And what do you think about where Pulse and PHEX will kind of what do you think their movements will be like? It's so hard. There's 3 things that all affect each other in really fundamental ways, and how you price things against each other. Because we don't know, I was discussing this the other day, because we don't know whether PUSD, Pulse USD, whether they'll just freeze all of those coins, or whether people will value them at $1. And because that's going to be paired, that PUSD, against PHEX, and it's also going to be paired against Pulse, we won't know how much of that number that Pulse is and what PHEX is. We won't know how much of that number is because people are devaluing the PUSD, or whether it's the real value of USD, the reference number that we use as a reference for everything, is going to be the accurate kind of representation. That like that'll just be a number. We won't know how much of how people are thinking in those terms.
Yeah, and I agree, and it's a lot of. That's why I'm glad you're on the show, so we can kind of try. We can try to kind of clash these and pick each other's minds in this, because I think short term, where I'm starting to really think that Pulse itself is going to outperform HEX for sure. I believe short term, and potentially PHEX right off the gate. And then, whenever all those first people take those profits, whatever, we might get that dump or pullback. And I think that's where we might see PHEX kind of take over and be the most productive, asset in that class. But I think long term, I think not long term, but let's talk the next 12 months. I fully expect Pulse and PHEX to outperform HEX solely for the fact that they're just starting off at such a cheap price, basically at zero, if that's the case, assuming the market doesn't just match them both, to the same price,
but
which it will do.
That, people have been mentioning that, and that's true to an extent, that they're everything, the Pulse and P starting at zero. But as soon as it forks, he has bots that they're going to come into the Uniswap pairs, and they're going to re-ratio those pairs to bring them up to the same price that's on the ETH chain, and then the price action starts happening.
So what do you think? That's why I'm glad you're here. So what do you think? Because if there's any person to ask about what price speculation, so I know essentially once we look back a few years from now, we're like, okay, prices are going to be normal, but right out the gate, do you think it's possible that we see a PHEX around the same price as EHEX? Or how soon after the actual fork can you see that happening?
Listen, we have to go. We need to know more about. There's so many unknowns. Like if we have to go through Pulse back to ETH to get to fiat, and vice versa, then that's going to have a big effect as well. Or as opposed to if Richard Hart gets his license, or if other exchanges start selling Pulse directly to fiat through those exchanges. That's going to be a massive kind of like
a variable.
Yeah, and because then they'll be paired with USD against on their things and everything like that. So there's a lot of unknowns with all of the market. And like even though HEX has been so bullish, it's like there's still like as soon as you start stepping out any sort of period of time, like as soon as you start stepping out 1 month into the future, 2 months, and as soon as you go more and more, the uncertainties just really, really pile up. And so it's going to be sort of like very complex, I think, how these things interact. And I think they're all really bullish.
Of course.
In the short term, medium term, and long term. So I think it's going to be kind of between them.
Okay, so let's make this fun. So I'm gonna ask you, but this is with a gun to your head. You're kidnapped. You have a gun to your head. You have to give an answer, one sentence. How long does it take for the prices to match, based off the little information you have now? What's your just general idea?
PHEX and EHEX. Well, I think I think they're going to be matched as soon as the bots come in and re-ratio those liquidity pools on Uniswap.
So days, weeks, what do you think?
Immediately. It starts at zero. It immediately goes to the same price as EHEX, and then trading starts. And so I'm guessing that people are going to be buying PHEX, and I'm guessing that people are going to be more predisposed to dumping EHEX.
Yeah, and that's actually a good thing, because like if that happens right out the gate, everyone basically doubles their bag for doing nothing. But I was also thinking like too, I know Richard's talking about because of the security reasons, he can't talk about prices whatsoever and no expectation of work of the others. But I'm like, man, what are we really that lucky to really get like a $0 Pulse and a $0 PHEX right out the gate? I mean, I know it's zero, but that market's gonna buy it up so quick, I'm thinking. So it's a win-win.
I mean, zero is true, but it's also just like doesn't really make much difference, because as soon as it starts trading, it starts trading. And like if no one's buying for a certain price, or if no one's selling for a certain price, then that's not going to be the price. You know what I mean? It'll move very, very quickly to what the market represents. It is at.
Yeah. That's there's a lot of things to really consider and think about with like in this situation, because I'm just thinking like, so Pulse, I know you kind of touched on this before we dove into the charts, but I want to kind of break it down a little bit with you. So Pulse, do you think after, you know, the immediate pump and whatever, if there is a dump after, kind of like how every new coin comes out and does, do you think there's ever going to be a situation where people that are buying day 1, day 30, whatever is in that first, you know, general time when it pops, is there going to be a possible situation in your mind where the people who are buying after it launches gets a better rate than the sacrifice phasers, and why or why not? What do you think?
You mean for either of these Pulse or Pulse
Just
or PHEX?
Just Pulse only, Pulse only.
Just Pulse?
Just Pulse.
No, I don't really see it as possible. I think that the best price you'll get for Pulse would have been in the sacrifice period, and I think that those people who got it in the sacrifice period will be waiting for multiples of X's until they sell any meaningful amount. And so, I think that even if you did get 2x better than everybody else through the sacrifice, I can't really see you selling it at just a 2x. Maybe you would. I mean, look, it's very hard because I put my imagination into all of these other people, and I assume that they've got the same thinking as me. But very obviously, they don't have the same thinking as me. And a lot of people have got, you know, will just want to be going for quick profits, I guess.
Of course.
But really, it's kind of like that they would have sacrificed for it. They understand that it's a sacrifice. They can never be seeing it again, but they value whatever USD dollar amount that they put into that. And I think that they just won't. I can't see them, the sacrifice set, being big sellers. I think they'll be holders. I think they'll be diamond hand holders. And so coming in after trying to scoop up bags, you could still do well, but I don't see you doing ever better than the sacrifice set. Unless you start timing everything really well, you know what I mean? Like buying dips,
which no one's gonna do.
Selling tops, you know, that's what traders, I guess, are trying to do, aren't they? But that's, you know, very difficult.
Yeah, and so that I'm glad you talk about that, because I agree with you too. And I was thinking, so for the people that are concerned in any way, shape, or form that you sacrifice X amount of dollars and you're worried that the price is going to be cheaper when it hits market, you know, after launch, keep in mind, if you sacrifice, especially day 1 through 5, you're not getting a 2.5x bonus, but you're at least getting over a 2x bonus. So even if price goes down a little bit lower, you still got more than double the actual coins for your investment. And I'm talking like a lot, you know, whatever a lot is to everybody. So even if for whatever reason the price per coin gets a better deal for a few days after it launches, the people that are buying that day are still not going to get the same amount of coins, or you wouldn't have gotten a better value per coin after launch for that reason. That 2.5x bonus amplifier kind of confirms that. I mean, what confirmed that for me was the OA address that came in and dropped 13 billion the very last day, very last minute. Kind of showed that, okay, we got the one whale who's going to control basically how the price kind of plays out with the good centralization behind a coin, but also really let the people that were in day 1 maximize their dollar, because that OA address isn't going to allow for how much time the person behind the OA, Richard, okay, let's just be real. So how much time Richard put into this, he's not going to let the price, being the biggest whale that holds the most supply, he's not going to let the price go lower, or at least on day 1, than what you're getting for the sacrifice phase. He has enough, you know, money kind of impulse.
I think he'll do the same thing that he did with HEX, and then he'll just sit on it and nothing will happen to them. And I'd even be surprised if they, like, how many of them delegate. Yeah. Like in terms of to the validators. I wouldn't be surprised if the absolute vast majority of that bag just sits and does nothing.
Yeah. Hey, BLOOBUM, give me. I'm sorry, I have to use the restroom. Give me like 45 seconds. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, no worries.
You can run the show for a second.
Yeah, I've got it, man. You do what nature wants you to do. So let's go through. Hey, everybody, how's it going? All right, good. Let's maybe just go through a few of the questions. Or if you have any questions, see, snitching. We sold the Uniswap for HEX and still went up. I can't put people's comments on the thing, unfortunately, and I'm just realizing I can't actually even scroll the comments to have a look back. So talk about clowning, Jexa. RH hinted at centralized validators, then slowly became more decentralized. I think people have a lot of misconceptions about the security model of proof of stake, or rather delegated proof of stake, and how that security model works. And I think we just have to really remember that, like, the only reason that we have decentralization is so that we have censorship resistance, is so that we have a secure network. That's what's important. And so if the security model of the network is what's important, and looking at those kind of factors. And so if you have like 33 like validators, and the government comes along and says, hey, you validator, that's illegal what you're doing, stop. That person just goes, okay. And there's always other people getting ready to come in. So it's just this amorphous. That's what decentralization is. It doesn't mean that every single person in the world has a little bit of a stake in the thing in order to secure it. Like, that's unnecessary, and this, like, scalability wise, completely unfeasible. So to have a quicker network, why not optimize those security parameters to make it fully secure, but also fast and cheap? Okay, what else we got? Hey, Wales only, Melva Tony, D'Artagnan, 8. What's going on? We're up to 14.2. So it's that little pullback maybe that he's just been talking about. Get to finish the other day. What didn't I get to finish, Jexa? Not sure what. And he's back. But did you have a satisfying experience?
Yeah, and by the way, I washed my hands. I tried to keep it quick, but that tank was loaded, so I couldn't help myself. But yeah, I want to show. I'm sorry, were you in the middle of a conversation with anybody by any chance?
No, that's cool. I was asked. Yeah, no, that's cool.
Okay, I want to show.
The clowning. Now Jackson wants me to talk about clowning. Okay, got it.
I want to show one thing. I didn't show the ETH HEX chart. I just want to show you guys something simple on this chart too. So I'm not going to break this one down too detailed because I know I spent a ton of time on the charts already. But the all-time chart, we're looking at the daily candles. Previously, before the sacrifice phase happened, we had this all-time high, which let me change this line. I know I have a ton of lines. Don't mind all the messy stuff on here. Hang on, let me change the color of this line real quick. Let's go with like purples. All right, so purple line is the all-time high line. Back when we were, drawing out these waves from this price trap, breakout wave 1, 2, 3, 4, stuff like that. Go watch the old videos to see that. But we basically flipped, we broke the all-time high, flipped it to a support line. Sacrifice phase made us, explode off of that. Well, this big bull flag that's happening in HEX right now, like, look where we're at. So just looking at just nothing but technicals against Ethereum. This is not against the US dollar or anything. We came back. We finally tested that, all previous all-time high before, the sacrifice phase. And it looks like we're holding this as a strong support line too. Ironic enough, the exact same range that we kind of bounced off of on the all-time the all-time high for the ETH HEX chart is that exact same 10.8 range that I had here that I was showing you guys earlier that we kind of have held as a support line. So I mean, we probably have 9-10 confirmations at this point of like where HEX is going at this point. Looking at it against Ethereum, that shows true strength to me. And I mean, the technicals are lining up perfect here too. So I just wanted to squeeze that in there for everybody.
Beautiful. Actually, we have someone asked about your T-shirt. Where can they get that T-shirt online?
Where did I get this? I got this at tpublic.com. I want to say they were $30, $30 US a piece. I want to say. They're comfortable, very good fabric. Like I said, this is like my wife's that didn't, it was the wrong, fit for her. So I'm just rocking it for the stream because we're not throwing a HEX shirt away. But the fabric's very nice. I have my, black one, and we love our HEX shirts. So I think
I really like bamboo. I really like bamboo T-shirts. I want to get stuff in bamboo.
Yeah,
If anyone knows anywhere online where I can get like HEX stuff printed on bamboo, like t-shirts, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, if you just literally Google like a HEX t-shirt website, there'll be something will pop up.
Yeah, I haven't found any bamboo, and it's always a bit of a risk with buying t-shirts online. I don't know. It's like some are awesome, and then others are just shit.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Stuff, and then it's come, and it's just like I'm never wearing this because it's just not a good t-shirt, you know.
Yeah, no, I get that. No, that's very true. What was I going to say though? So for Pulse, I wanted to ask you something before I had to use the restroom. So we were talking about the chance of people getting in day one after the sacrifice phase, getting a better deal. We explained why not. I already asked you about the price of PHEX, how soon you would think it would match the price of EHEX. You gave me that. So like I said, I know there's not enough information out there, but I just want to pick your mind while I have you here and while people, have the chance to, hear what you got to say because your opinion is valuable in the community. Again, gun to your head. Price of Pulse, day one, the moment it hits market. What do you think based off what you know so far?
Listen, from what I've understood, I'll explain it again, and I might be misunderstanding something technical here, but from the way I understand it, straight after, like it launches at 0, and then straight after, there are bots that go into the Uniswap pools to buy up or sell off or whatever those bots do to bring the ratio to the same price that it was on the Ethereum network without the increase in supply that Pulse has. So from what I understand, every single pool is going to be brought up to be the exact same USD or whatever ratio price as is on the Ethereum network. So I think that everything is going to start off at the same price. So PHEX will start off at the same price as EHEX. P-Uni will start off at the same price as Uni. But then as the fork has happened and people start selling off whatever they think they don't want or buying up whatever they do want, that's when all the prices will happen. So I see the price of Pulse going up a lot right at the start, probably then dumping, but then I think there'll be a big push, a big price pressure upwards. And so I think that PHEX, because of that, and also because it's the new thing and it's slick and it's fast and everything like that, and you don't have to pay much for end staking and making stakes and moving about, I think Pulse will just go up. So I think Pulse will start at the same price PHEX will start at the same price as EHEX, and it will just be worth more. And that's why.
Wait, real quick. Pulse will be worth more. Or you're talking about PHEX will be worth more than
PHEX will be worth more, and
okay.
I think Pulse. I think Pulse will go up as well, but it's a much harder comparison to do between the three because like Pulse won't trade against EHEX.
Okay, but for the game show, you got to give me something. Guns to your head. What's the price?
The price is it goes. How much more is it?
Just
I think it starts. You mean on day one?
Just basically starting price day one. What do you see? Like what actual dollar value or whatever do you see Pulse?
At what point in day one? In hour 1 or in hour 24?
Let's go hour 24.
I think it'll be worth 15%, no, 10% more or 12% than EHEX.
12%? Okay.
I think Pulse HEX will be 12% more than EHEX.
Oh, wow.
At the end of the first day.
So we're probably looking at, say, HEX, based off current HEX price, 14 cents, maybe like just shy of 20 cents you're talking?
Well, no, because of what your analysis is, it's like we're about to do another pump to maybe like 25 cents around there. Then we'll do the old pullback and all that kind of thing. And I still think we have another leg up to go before the fork. So I think the price at fork could be up more like around over 30 cents.
Ooh, okay. Then that's one thing, I'm the technical analysis guy. I break down the charts. So I like to pick the people's minds and HEX about that. So you're getting me excited. You're getting me very excited because I'm over here expecting the worst. I'm thinking like maybe 1/1000th of a penny or something, you know. But if we are even
really?
anywhere, if we're even near a penny whatsoever, or over, or you know, eventually the price
But
of
it won't.
Ethereum.
I mean, I suppose it could dump. I suppose there could be people who are buying HEX now, hoping for it to rise in price, and then when they get their PHEX, they dump their PHEX for Pulse because they want Pulse more than they want PHEX. But and yeah, I'm sure there are people thinking like that, and I think that's not a bad tactic if you didn't get into the sacrifice set and you do want to be in on Pulse. The best way at the moment probably is to buy up. Right at the moment is to buy up HEX because you'll get those Pulse HEX, and then you'll be able to swap some of that or all of it for Pulse. But I think that there will also be people going the other way, buying up PHEX with the Pulse. So
Yeah.
I think that both of those two things help each other. And I think that the fork is a massive event. And so that's why I tend to think that EHEX might dump a bit straight after the fork. Because people want to take some sort of profits from that fork. I don't know. Well, maybe they don't. Maybe they don't need to, you know, and they're just going to be diamond handing it.
So, because like the way I see this, and I'm no expert, but if I'm thinking like, you know, you get 10,000 pulls per dollar at the start of sacrifice phase, not counting the bonus, that's at least, and you go day one, you're not, and I'm pretty sure like if I'm trying to be logical, and there can be flaws in my thinking, but if I'm thinking day one, obviously I'm going to trust that it starts at 0 and buys up right away. Market determines the price. I would say very worst case scenario, we would have to be here. This would be the price, assuming you get the exact same rate that the sacrificers got. I'm thinking price is going to be higher than this, but if I'm being the conservative guy that I am, worst case scenario, I want to see like if we do start off at $0, like how it's supposed to be when we get the free pulse, market puts it here. I mean, I would say this has to be worst case scenario, but I mean, if we're talking like 15, 20 cents, wow. Like a lot of people are going to make a lot of money. And something too, I had to kind of bring up for Pulse, that I was starting to believe that Pulse might outperform HEX for a few different reasons. So people in HEX, if you got in day one, hang on, let me plug in my laptop 1 second. Literally, give me like 10 seconds. Oh, no, here we go.
I think there's something that we have to really nut out, and that's exactly what these bots do that go into the uni. Because if I'm right, you'll never be able to buy P-Hulse for close to 0.
That's what I'm thinking too, and I'm thinking Richard.
Work.
Yeah, I'm thinking that literally Richard Hart is going to be probably the guy or the bot that's going to buy the price up to a certain level that it's going to kind of start at, just Pulse itself. But what was I saying real quick? What was I saying? I was saying something about Pulse. I forgot. I lost my train of thought. It'll probably come back to me. I was saying something about Pulse, what I was getting at. I was talking about the starting price being at 0.001.
Hey, Johnny Carrier. No, we were talking about a 30 cent HEX Pulse price.
Shoot, I forgot what I was thinking of. I had a very interesting thought.
Pulse HEX price.
What was it? I feel like I lost it. It'll come to me eventually, but
it's looking incredibly like the speculative kind of value of Pulse is looking huge. Like just the numbers of the people in the chat and the excitement around it, the clarity of of people understanding it.
Yeah. So sorry, not to cut you off. I know what I wanted to say. So with HEX, people that got in day 1 to day 30, right? They turned, you know, if you put $100 in a HEX in the first 30 days, it's worth like at least 6 figures at this point. So a lot of people in HEX turned a little bit of money into a lot of money, right? Well, those same Hexicans now have legitimate capital to put into Pulse. So I feel like I'm starting to think that Pulse, the more I think about it, could outperform HEX. And that's crazy because I feel like HEX, even with Pulse being out, is still the best thing ever created on Earth. But at least short term, I can see Pulse pumping a lot faster than HEX pumped, solely for the fact that everyone that got legit capital through HEX put in that legit capital into Pulse. And now what happens when you're putting in legit capital into a thing that's going to go up just as fast or faster? I mean, now you're talking real whales in the crypto markets. So that was what I was trying to get at. I think that reason is one of the big things that makes me believe that Pulse can pump, just Pulse itself, not PHEX, EHEX. Pulse chain itself can pump that much faster because of how much people are getting from that sacrifice phase and how much real money that Hex gave them to actually sacrifice. And I feel like that's something that I didn't hear too many people talk about, but I feel like it's a very key thing because there's a lot of money floating in. I mean, there's 14 billion,
and there's 10,000 PRC20s that will all be paired against Pulse. I mean, that amount of economic energy is just insane.
And you need the Pulse to pay for the gas fee, so people are going to use it for utility and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things. I'm starting to think, like, at least short term, I would not be surprised to see Pulse outperform Hex on the day-to-day level for the first few months, maybe the first year. If you think about Ethereum, it took Ethereum years until Hex came along, and Hex was the thing that really kind of became, better than Ethereum, and we realized the use of Ethereum was just as the security rails, and it's like, but it had like massive speculative value, like for years until Hex kind of came along, and looks like it will end up beating its, like eventually in years to come, Hex will be way bigger market cap than what it sits on, the Ethereum. Like the Ethereum Hex will be a bigger market cap than Ethereum because the value will accrue to the end. Rather, it's only like a 3x away, so it's right there.
And so I think it could be years that Pulse outperforms, but I think eventually the same thing happens where the value will accrue. Like Hex is the apex predator of value. It eats up that. And in the long term, it's just a better store. I think it will be a better store of value than Pulse. But I think there could be like a long time, even years, where Pulse gains an absolute ton of value as well. And maybe it beats it out in the short, whatever the midterm is. But I think long term, Hex sitting on top of these things will accrue more value.
And I agree 100% actually. So that's very good. So I'm glad we both kind of have two different short-term perspectives, but ultimately I think you hit the nail on the head right there with the long-term, because I feel like Pulse will pump faster short-term, but long-term, once the smoke settles 5-10 years from now, I feel like Hex is still Hex and there's nothing like it. So I definitely agree. I want to show something too real quick, a little bit of cool stuff for the people that just like price. By the way, I drew a trend line from the very bottom of Hex to where we're at now, kind of the median of where we're kind of trending, just to get you guys pumped up. Well, how far do we go back? 2024 is the latest we go. If this trend just goes literally till the day one of 2024, $250 Hex. So, I mean, that's literally just a trend line. That's me saying nothing, predicting nothing, whatever. That's just literally where we're going as long as we keep this trend. So that's something to get excited about. But what I want to show, so from Hex to get to, its all-time high, let's see how long it actually took, okay? And let's compare that to Ethereum. And then maybe kind of just draw 2 and 2 together with, Pulse chain, factor in if it moves faster or slower, right? So Hex, from day one, roughly day one, till its very top, it took 574 days to go up how many thousand percents? 500, remember that, 574 to go up, and I'm not going to go from the bottom, I'll go from the day one price, to go up about 130,000. I'm going to round down just to keep it simple. So 574 to do 130,000%, right? So let's take a look at Ethereum just to see the pace that it's moving at. ETH USD. How long did it take Ethereum to do its first 130,000? Let's take this off. Let me go. I have to go to the weekly here because this has so much more time under it. Let me just delete all this stuff off of here. So Ethereum's 130,000% from day one. Whoops. I got to actually get it like after it drops. 130,000. 103, 130, 120, 130. It took roughly, okay, so that's 130,000%. Let's see how long that took for Ethereum to get to where Hex is now from day one. 882 days. So it took Ethereum an extra 300, roughly. It's 306. Let's just go. It took Ethereum an extra 300 days, almost a whole year, to get exactly the gains that Hex is at now. So that just goes to show the pace that Hex is moving is blazing a lot faster than Ethereum. Ethereum is at, 14,000x right now. Hex is moving a year ahead of time based off right now. So if we try to put 2 and 2 together, okay, Hex is obviously breaking, it took Ethereum's path and paved its own way faster. Pulse Chain is a better version of Ethereum, a better version of the Binance Smart Chain. Any fork of Ethereum, Pulse Chain is a better version of that. If we're talking 130,000%, and it does between 374 and 800 and whatever days with Ethereum, and maybe moves even faster, because I mean, if I'm trying to be logical, a better product with more value around it based on what Hex has done should outperform that. I mean, what can we try to think here?
I was just thinking it's going to be really interesting as well. Like on the Ethereum chain, the liquidity providers have really taken it out of ETH and put it into USDC. So most of the liquidity for Hex trading is against USDC on the Ethereum chain. But I'm wondering what tactic they will have on the Pulse chain, and whether most of the liquidity will be against Pulse. And if that's the case, if Pulse starts doing this massive move up in the first couple of years, because it's going to be traded mainly against, if it is traded mainly against PHEX, that's going to lift both of them up.
Yeah. So, I mean, if all three of these, like EHEX, PHEX, I mean, everything is just blazing at a rapid pace. I mean, Pulse Chain itself, who knows? I mean, that's what makes me believe that short term it can really outperform Hex. And then, a few years later, when the smoke settles and everything, we kind of hit that, that settlement of all the hype. I mean, Hex is still going to reign supreme. But I mean, this really makes me think Pulse is going to pump a lot faster than everything in the world. And I would not be shocked. Richard having a second go at this, and he's creating a product. He basically built the better Bitcoin. He's building a better Ethereum. Ethereum was a better Bitcoin. So he's building a better version of a better product.
Yeah.
So
and this time he's starting off from a higher base, because he's already got a whole lot of dedicated users and who he's made a ton of money.
Yeah.
So he's already got that starting step up in terms of marketing and getting the information out, and people who are invested in it and want it to do well. So,
and if you think about it too, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, he's starting from that leg up, but he's also he's just. I mean, it's a different beast as well. It's going to be a different beast, but he's also. It's different, isn't it? Like when he finished Hex, he was like, done. It's a finished product. This is it. Now we're just going to move into the telling people about it. But now it seems like he's got other plans. Like he's got a thing to have his own license to have an exchange, and he's looking at like potentially working on a MetaMask competitor or replacement.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
He's going to get it to the point where crypto is fixed. That's what his goal is now. It's not just to put out this product. So all of these things, all of these attributes, all of these kind of things will feed into another. Like people getting speculative on Pulse is going to pull up the PHEX price. People getting speculative on PHEX is going to pull up the Pulse price if they're mainly paired against each other. So it's kind of like it's all just going to feed into all of these things that he does. Is just going to start feeding, and that's the network effect as well, And as we have those waves of new people coming in, staking out lock, being committed, and then it just keeps building and building, And like, what's the average length? Is the average length for a stake just keep on going up?
It's closer to 6.
It's 5.77 years now.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's impressive. And two, when you talk about network effects, so to kind of go touch base on Pulse, so it's another reason why I think Pulse is going to pump even more, like you brought up the airdrop. But the airdrop, like obviously is genius, right? Because we're all getting free money. People are going to want to use it. But what makes it even more genius is the only way anybody can access all those airdrop coins, those PRC20s that they're all getting for free, is if they buy Pulse to transact. If they want to sell them, okay, you can sell your whatever coin that is, but you need to buy Pulse to do so. You don't have to be a Hexagon to do that. You have to have any ERC20 token to do that. So there's a lot of pumpamentals that go into Pulse that people underestimate, because I see a lot of people on Twitter like, oh, Pulse doesn't have pumpamentals like Hex does. Like, it does. Like, it really does.
And if people have the attitude that I mean, first of all, it's going to be very cheap to do, and most people will have a little bit of Ethereum, so that will be converted into Pulse, and so everyone will have enough to interact with the network and use the network. But not only that, but like all of these people, if they do have the attitude of, I've got this ERC20, now I've got a copy on the Pulse chain, I want to dump that. It's an airdrop. I want to dump it and cash it in. They have to, what he's forcing them to do is buy Pulse. Because when you sell the PRC20, what you're actually doing is buying Pulse.
Yeah. Like, it's genius. It's right. Is it just me, or is it really like a revelation, like warning signs, light bulbs, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, this thing is going to pump harder than you guys think it's going to pump?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing in Hex, because there are times when you feel so bullish about it and you just want to taper it off, because you know that's like that exuberance as a way that people have kind of like faltered in the past, but it is just so bullish at a logical, rational level, that it's like you want to tell the truth about it as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the truth is that it's just looking like there's so many other things in the whole Hex ecosystem which is happening at the same time, which all feeds into it. Like those German dudes are about to go on a road trip all around the States, stopping at all of these places with a couple of, Audis, which are just fully, probably specced out, and like they go in and like that's going to have its own momentum and cause people to know about it in the real world, not on this crypto Twitter crap. Yeah. It's like, so there's that, and then there's and then there is all these people who have become wealthy because of Hex, who are starting to go out and create things in the world, and starting to spread the word. And I mean, that whole network effect and then encapsulated stakes, man. People have no idea how bullish encapsulated stakes will be when that platform gets like a good user interface and an easy way of interacting with it. There is going to be so many Quattro Cinco stakes made,
man,
so many.
But I know the T-share price, the T-share rate's going to stay the same, almost positive. So we're not going to look out and get hundreds of T-shares on a couple $100 or $1,000 or whatever. But I know I'm pretty sure the T-share rate's going to stay the same. But still, like the value's there.
One thing that I have no idea about, I haven't seen anyone's analysis that really convinces me, is what is going to be the difference in the T-shares between P-Hex and E-Hex. And how the different behaviors on those two chains will affect that share rate, and if it affects it a lot.
Yeah.
My guess is that they're going to have a pretty similar share rate for a long time. But
yeah, I agree.
I don't fully understand the mathematical formula to how the share rate increases. Like, I understand it, but I don't understand it at the micro level enough to understand how much. Like, if let's say let's assume that on PulseX people are making shorter stakes, bigger and shorter stakes. How does that affect the share rate? I'm not sure. And I know some people have spoken about it, and they think that it will go up on PulseX, but I'm not so convinced on that. And it'll be interesting to see. It'll just be interesting to compare the ETH-Hex and the P-Hex charts and what they do over time.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That's what I'm excited for.
All of the staking behavior on each of them, and in the price on each of them, and like, yeah, it's gonna be super interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, like for you guys watching, like, so my technical analysis I do on Thursdays and sometimes on my own channel, like soon enough, in a couple months, we're going to be here. I'm going to be going through a Hex chart, an E-Hex chart. I'm going to be going through a P-Hex chart. I'm going to be going through a Pulse chart. I'm going to be going through like a Hex Pulse chart and a P-Hex Pulse. Like, it's going to be some fun stuff. So this is
and
cool.
what the really nice thing is that like everyone when you invest in things have a lot of diversity. And that was the one thing that was a little bit, maybe I guess, was a little bit of a concern in the back of my mind, was that I was putting everything into Hex. But now we've got now we're starting to get this ability to be able to diversify within the things that we just like.
Yeah, you get dry powder. You're buying whatever the most discounted one is, and that's why I feel like EHEX won't dump, because the moment EHEX decides to go cheaper than PHEX, people are going to buy that up. They're going to just be setting the bar, pushing each other higher, and I know I'm going to be doing that. It's worth me paying a $30 gas, and it's worth paying a $30 gas fee to get cheaper hex than I would get in another chain, if that $30 doesn't make a difference how much hex I'm getting long term at least. So they're going to be pushing each other higher and higher. And I mean, I know eventually, like Pulse, the fees, as there's 4 times more capacity, I'm pretty sure. So the fees are going to be cheaper for a long time, but everything's going to fill. I'm not saying that Pulse is going to have fees the size of Ethereum. That probably will never happen. But I mean, soon enough, it's not always going to be pennies, you know, everything fills after a while. But for the next few years, you know, probably like 3 to 5 years, it's going to be just, we're in such great shape. So if you guys are in the community, you guys know about Hex, you guys know about Pulse, anything, you guys are so far ahead of the schedule. I mean, we're going to be getting on stream, you know, in a year or two talking about, oh, Hex is at $1, $1.50, next move, $3, $10, where are we going? You know, that's inevitable. So, I mean, if you guys are here, it's never too late, and don't worry. I mean, just get in and hold, hodl. As long as you hodl, you're going to be A-okay. Not financial advice, but me, I was a trader, and I was a good trader. I was actually profitable, but Hex saved me from trading because the profits of just buying, holding, and staking paid me so much more. It's so much less stressful. So just know that, ladies and gentlemen, like, don't worry. Somebody's saying a 14.4 cents. Did I close out my chart? Oh, wait, no, it's still up there. Hang on. I have like 2 different windows open now. Yeah, I don't want to drag this on too long, but let's take a just quick one more look at the chart and then probably wrap it up. It's been an hour and a half. I can go on all night talking this, but somebody's talking pumpamentals and Hex right now. Sorry, it's loading.
Breeder says the problem is fees are like $6K to end stake a 1.5 year stake. I don't think it's that much, is it? I mean, maybe if you get it at the really wrong time. 6K. It's not that much.
Twitter and real, but like, I ended a stake on the first week of sacrifice phase. I ended a stake actually, and I think I paid $7, maybe 17, 7. It wasn't like
they typed emotion just 1.5
pennies, but
yeah. Emotion did a 1.5 year and it was $120 at 35 Gwei. And in the 1.5 years, the price went up that much that you don't give a shit that you're paying that much, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I mean, if you're up, you know, you're up 3,000x, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, yeah, I mean, Hex, look at the Hex is pumping. So shout out to whoever said that in chat. But yeah, Hex is pumping. So, I mean, if I'm looking just at the daily chart, like I said earlier, one of the many confirmations, we have the trend line going down. Obviously, we have this triangle, big triangle right here, you know, triangle kind of bursting. But yeah, if we hit this resistance one final time, respect this, just to reiterate what we talked about. If we can hit this resistance, maybe respect that one final time, kind of bounce off it like a basketball, bam, 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 come down, flip this top trend line into a support line. And if that breaks, it's gone. If that plays out that way, all 25 cents is all but inevitable. 3 to 5 days, maybe, hopefully, that'd be great to see. So if it plays out perfectly, but it's almost not guaranteed. But if we get a Pulse Chain sacrifice announcement, or not a Pulse Chain testnet announcement that it's, you know, going live or whatnot in the next 3 to 5 days, and it's probably going to happen. So, but yeah, price is pumping right now. Or I think we'd all be happy just to see price be like, yeah, let's not listen to any of those technicals I talked about tonight. Let's just go up now. No one's disappointed with that.
Yeah. No time like the present.
But yeah, so
yeah, like a lot of people, yeah, there are some crazy gas fees, guys, but just you know, don't pay them. Wait. You know, you got 2 weeks to end a stake. Within 2 weeks, you'll always find a better time to end a stake than just having to fork out these massive amounts.
Yeah, this morning I planned to end a stake. It was nearly 30 weighted hours, 24 weighted hours, 13. Yeah, those stake fees are so liquid that it's just, you have to go at the right time, and you can wait a couple hours and just beat, you know, the volumes, I guess, of those. But yeah, no worries, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, BLOOBUM, man, my man, thank you for getting on tonight. I feel like this was very good, very healthy. I appreciate your perspective as always, what you do for the Hex community. You get out there, you spread the word. You're doing a good deed, and you're one of the more respectable minds in this community. And I'm talking from personal experience. Before I got into Hex, you were one of those guys I really looked at. So I appreciate you for getting on, spending some time with me tonight. I think it's a good time to probably wrap this thing up. I think what if people say, I think they're liking it. Maybe we can do this more often, get on together. I think we got some good chemistry going.
Yeah. Well, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it next week.
Absolutely. So if you guys want BLOOBUM, just let me know. This is not my stream. This is Discourse Syndicate. So whether it's Discourse Syndicate or our channels, let's keep this thing going. Let's enjoy every step of this, sacrifice or into this pulse chain testnet mainnet launch together. So we can look back in 10, 15 years from now and be like, man, that was us when we were old farts one day, and be like, we were talking at the very beginning,
So, totally.
Let's keep this thing going. But it was a pleasure having you. It's always good talking to you. Thank you for being on. Thank you for kind of interacting with the chat, keeping things organized. And to everybody in the chat, I appreciate you guys for being on. Hopefully we're able to add some value for you guys. BLOOBUM on Twitter, if you want to shout your Twitter name. I'm Crypto Jenkins with the Z. BLOOBUM, if you want to shout your Twitter name, give the man a follow. He has a YouTube channel too. I have a YouTube channel. We're always giving content. We're always here, trying to add value. So let them know where to find you, BLOOBUM.
Yeah, I think if you just search BLOOBUM, or I think my Twitter name is @JohnOKatz, JONNOKATZ. And yeah, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I love your chart analysis. And I've been really, I was never really into TA, but with all of the hexagons who have been coming on, I've been much more interested in it, and I've been really loving all the different TA people. So shout out to Gerardo's, shout out to Pulse Lord. I've been really enjoying his. Shout out to Hex Tangent, who's just, for me, is brilliant. And there was another and Bobcat, and I think he does. So there are a lot of great TA people. I love your stuff, Jenkins, and so really happy to be on. And thanks for inviting me, and thanks to everyone in the chat. You guys are awesome. It's such a great community, the Hex community. That's the other super bullish thing about Hex, is just our community. The amount of people, the amount of swag, the amount of tattoos, the amount of time and energy that everyone's putting into it. To get information out, to share information, and everyone just does their little bit, and we go to the moon, guys.
To the moon we go. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you will catch Jenkins featuring BLOOBUM soon at your local theater. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen.